But let's start with my drums. I play Pearl drums exclusively. Um, Pearl make phenomenal gear. I first started playing Pearl drums in the '80s. I think that was in 1980, also in '84, maybe. Um, and when I signed on to him, first of all, Chester Thompson. I don't know if you know Chester, but Chester Thompson was the drummer for Peter Gabriel. I'm sorry, he was the drummer for Genesis, and also with Phil Collins. He's a good buddy of mine. He's from Baltimore as well. He turned me on to Pearl drums, and every year, every 10 years, it seemed like the drums get better. And now I've always said, like, well, they can't get any better than the way they're making them now. And then another 10 years, they come up with something else. Um, I'm a big fan of maple shell drums. Um, and the kit that I have at home is a maple gum wood finish or shell, and I really, really love those drums. The drums are very true sounding, and um, I'm not going to mention any other companies' names, but when companies tell you that you buy this drum and you get a shell and the shell is tuned to a certain note, and the only way you can get a good sound out of it, you got to tune to this note. No, man, I don't like that. If you spending, I mean, equipment is very expensive nowadays. So if you're spending like 10, 6, 7 thousand dollars, that drum set you should be able to get any sound you want out of it, and any tuning you want out of it. As people know that for myself, I play different styles of music, so I need gear that can do that. Pearl drums, and there are other companies that do that, but Pearl drums do that for me. I can get any. I can get like an export kit of pearls and make it sound great. You know, but be fair with all the other companies. All other companies, they make, at this day and age, they make great gear.
Denis, eu queria que você falasse um pouco sobre o seu kit e sobre a afinação que você usa na bateria.
My drum setup, what I chose to use is a 10, 12, 13, and I say 13 rack tom with a 14, 16, and an 18 floor. At home is an 18 and a 20-inch gong.
Três surdos.
Huh?
Três surdos.
Three floor. Yeah, I got an 18 normally. It's 18 over here, and then I got a gong bass drum over here, a 20-inch gong.
Ok.
And with the octobans, or rock, they call them rock toms, rocket toms, Pro have. So I got that over here. But normally, when I tour, you don't see that. The only time you see that setup is like if I'm playing with somebody like Santana or somebody like that, a big stage. But when I'm playing with Mike Stern, it's normally 10, 12, 13, 14, 16 floor, a 20-inch kick, not a 22, but a 20-inch kick that I normally play with. And the reason, because with Mike, it's a cross between rock and jazz. We're swinging a lot, and then also we're rocking out. So I need a bass drum that handles that type of thing. And also when I play with Victor Wooten, it's a 20. Anybody else normally it's like a 22 by 16 or 22 by 18, but I really prefer a 22 by 14. I don't know why drummers all of a sudden decide that they get like a 22 by 16 or 22 by 18, and then they stuff it to make it sound like a 22 by 14. If you think all the records that were done up until 1980, 85 at least, it was always 22 by 14s. All the records, the blue, because there were no 22 by 16s.
Sem nada dentro? Você não colocava nada dentro?
Well, no, they had stuff inside. But what I'm saying is, back in them days, they didn't have longer bass drums.
Oh,
because the whole thing is like you need a tight sound, and like something with some that handles frequencies. Well, then all of a sudden everybody went 22 by like 16s or 18s, just to stuff it with something. So now you don't really get the true sound of that 16 or 18 sound. But that's where everybody went. So, like everybody, drummers like listening to the older records and they like the sound of those bass drums. Well, those bass drums were 22 by 14s. There were no 16s and 18s. And for some strange reason, a lot of some younger guys, they can't play. They prefer not to play a 13-inch tom-tom, and they say the reason why is because they don't know how to tune it, or they can't get a good sound out of a 13. But they use a 14-inch floor. How can you go from they use like an 8, 10, 12, and then a 14 floor tom and a 16. So the frequency somewhere that is missing when you got an 8, 10, 12.
Mm-hmm.
But if you have a 10, 12, or if you have an 8, sometimes I play 8, 10, 12, 13. I always have a 13 because I got to follow it up with the 14. With the 14 and the 13, the frequencies, there's nothing missing in that. They get when they go with an 8, they get this little tight little sound that sound like a bongo, and then it opens up with the 10, 12, but they go from the 12 down to a 14. Somewhere in that it gets missing, and that's why I prefer to have something that have a great sound. And when I roll around, you hear everything in that setup. The snare drum, I prefer, like what's that snare drum called? I forgot the name of it now. But what I modeled my snare drum off of, it's like a maple shell drum that's like either 6.5 by 14 or 5 by 14. But my snare drum is a 6.5. And the reason for it is because I like something with some depth, some depth and range. So I can actually tighten this up and get a real nice high tight sound, but I can also loosen it to get like a Motown sound if I need to. But the idea with my three throw-offs here is it comes from a concert snare drum. Something you would see what a classical drummer would use. And the reason why I have this is because now I have total control over the attentions of the snare. Sounds different. In between. But also, the other reason why I did this is because normally at home, sometimes I put like 3 different wires on them. This is it's 3 wires, but they're all the same. I'll use like a copper wire, and then I use like a cable on one, and then maybe a catgut on the other one. So now I got 3 total different sounds of the snares, right? So. But that's why I did that.
Oh, incrível.
And the whole idea of the 10 and 8 on the bottom lug pattern is just to get a more accurate tuning on the top. I have more control over the tuning up here than versus like having an 8 and 8 or a 10-10. Yeah.
Você troca as esteiras, a regulagem da esteira, dependendo do tipo de som, dependendo do tipo do artista?
Not really. No, it's just for me, it's a personal thing, what I wanted to hear. And I offer it to other drummers if they want to hear or have a different sound. Like you got this one that next song or something, you got like a wire, a catgut or if you're playing jazz, catgut or cable, when may work. So you have that. And like I said earlier, normally at home, I have all 3 of them on my snare drum. So if I do need to change, no problem. I just do that, like put that on and off I go. If I don't like that with the next song, I got a whole nother, different sound.
Quando você afina sua bateria, Você pensa em melodia, porque você falou do seu tom de 10, de 12, de 13, para você ter esse intervalo entre as notas. Você pensa em melodia, em notas musicais ou não necessariamente?
I'm always thinking melodically. Always. And normally I tune the drums in thirds. Like if I play. Yeah.
Qual o kit de prato que você está usando hoje e geralmente você costuma trocar os pratos que você usa ou você usa um padrão de prato, um set padrão?
Well, these are not my cymbals, first of all. So, but normally at home, I use like a left ride, the 22-inch left ride. I always have a 22-inch ride or a K custom.
Uhum.
And normally you can't find that one. That's for me. But yeah, I like dry sounding ride cymbals when I'm playing jazz because I have to have I like to hear a lot of stick definition and not a lot of wash. And you know when you're playing with somebody like Mike Stern or anything that's amplifications that's at it, I need a cymbal that's going to cut over that, but not a lot of wash over it. Just the stick beat, you know, the stick sound. Now, for me, I would put a moon gel on that if I'm playing it live, just so I can hear more stick and tone. But this cymbal sounds pretty good, though.
É mais o ping da baqueta, né? Mais o ping do prato.
Yeah. With a little tone, but the tone don't wash the ping out. Yeah. And then I always have a Crasher Doom. You know, the one I have at home is a 19-inch Crasher Doom, which is a little bigger than this, I think. And then there's a 17-inch fast crash, and then a 18-inch. It's a fast crash, K fast crash. But sometimes now I'm using these prototypes that's driving everybody nuts because they're trying to figure out how can they get that sound. And I think it's out now, but I had it for a while. But it's a 16-inch also a fast crash. And the hi-hats are, normally I play like a 13-inch, what is it? It's called, what is it? It's called Master Sounds.
Ok.
With the ridges. But my setup is two bottoms. It's not a top and a bottom, it's two bottoms. And before I was playing 12s, I would play these, but I would also play two bottoms, not the top and bottom, not a matching set. And the reason for it is because when let me tell you, I got that idea from Aman Zuljan. He brought some cymbals to me. He's like, hey man, you need to try these. And I tried them and I fell in love with them. The whole concept of playing two bottoms. But the reason why, you know, with the master sounds with the ridges is because sometimes when you play, for me, it's like sometimes I got the hi-hat on every beat of the bar, you know, 4 on the floor. And sometimes the cymbals, you know, they do this, they move. And, you know, like 1 minute you're hearing them and the next minute you don't hear them. So now you're trying to play and you're turning your cymbals trying to get it. I don't have that problem with the master sounds. I have two bottoms. Because no matter where this thing ends up, I'm going to hear it.
Muito interessante isso, muito interessante, muito interessante. Você sempre usou o chimbal pequeno ou isso foi por conta... Você começou tocando funk, né? Com Parliament Funkadelic. Você já usava o chimbal de 13 ou você usava um chimbal maior e foi chegando nesse som?
No, back in the early days, I would use 16s. I had 16-inch hi-hats. It was just a big sound, you know, when I'm playing. So the hi-hats were big, so they have a more meatier sound. And, you know, the way they would mic the hi-hat back then, it's a little different the way they do it now. But no matter where I'm hitting it on a big cymbal, you hear the, you know, I mean, you hear every beat of it because the damn thing is so big. Well, now, even then I could have used something small because my technique always lend itself in a certain spot on the hi-hat. I'm never playing over here. I'm never playing over there,
Ok.
But I think the reason why they did that then is because, guys were on some other substance where they would get high and they're not paying attention to where their stick would lie on the cymbal.
Oh, entendi, entendi. Muito bom.